The human ship arrived exactly on time, which already made several observers uncomfortable. In the grand orbital hall of Varelia, time was a flexible thing. Arrivals were usually delayed on purpose, adjusted to show power, patience, or ritual respect. The humans had done none of that. Their vessel exited faster than light space at the exact moment written in the invitation, no more and no less. Princess Sciathera stood behind the translucent curtain of the receiving chamber, her hands resting calmly at her sides. Around her, attendants moved with controlled urgency. Something was wrong. The air felt thinner than it should have been, and not because of pressure. One attendant froze, eyes wide. "My princess," she said softly, fear breaking through her trained voice. "The regalia interface did not activate." Sciathera looked down. The symbols of her rank were missing. No luminous mantle hovered behind her shoulders. No ceremonial resonance field wrapped her thoughts in the calming hum that all Varelian royalty wore in public. The crystal nodes that projected lineage data, authority markers, and emotional shielding remained dark and silent. She was standing in the chamber, as she had not stood since childhood, unshielded, exposed. For a single breath, the world seemed to pause. This was not just improper, it was unthinkable. Among the Varelians, rulers were never seen without their regalia, not because of vanity, but because the regalia was part of governance itself. It filtered emotional noise, stabilized presence, and communicated authority on a level deeper than words. Without it, a royal appeared unfinished, vulnerable, almost ordinary. The attendants began to panic. "We must delay," one whispered urgently. "Close the chamber. Claim a system fault. The human delegation is already entering the hall," another said. "They will see." Sciathera lifted one hand. "Don't." The motion was small, but it stopped the room. Her thoughts raced, but her face remained calm. She had been trained since birth to maintain composure, even if that composure was usually supported by technology. Now she felt every emotion clearly: concern, surprise, and something unfamiliar beneath them. Curiosity. "Do not delay," she said. The attendants stared at her. "My princess, we will proceed," Sciathera repeated, "as scheduled." No one argued after that. They simply stepped back, though fear still trembled in the air like static. The curtain began to rise. On the other side of the chamber, the human delegation waited. There were only 3 of them. That alone was strange. Most species arrived with dozens of advisors, translators, and symbolic guards. The humans came with 1 lead envoy and 2 assistants, all dressed in simple dark clothing with no visible markings of rank beyond a small emblem on their chests. The lead human stood slightly forward. He was taller than Sciathera expected, with posture that suggested awareness rather than aggression. His face showed focus, but not tension. His eyes moved slowly across the chamber, taking in the architecture without obvious judgment. When the curtain fully lifted, silence fell. Every Varelian present felt it instantly. The lack. Whispers rippled through the court. Gasps were quickly silenced, but the damage was done. The princess stood before an off-world species without her regalia. Her status was exposed to outsiders. The cultural breach was severe. Sciathera kept her gaze steady and stepped forward. The human envoy noticed immediately. His eyes flicked, not to her body, not to her form, but to the space around her, to where the regalia should have been. Recognition crossed his face. Not shock, not amusement. Recognition. Something shifted in his expression. His posture softened, just slightly, as if he understood he was witnessing something important. He bowed. It was not a deep bow, not submissive, but it was precise and respectful, performed without hesitation. "Princess Sciathera of Varelia," he said in clear, even tones. "I am Daniel Reeves, representative of Earth. Thank you for receiving us." There was no pause, no glance to his assistants. no whispered comment. He continued as if nothing was wrong. The chamber felt unbalanced. Sciathera spoke, her voice steady despite the strange clarity of emotion she felt. "You arrive exactly as scheduled, Representative Reeves." "Yes," he replied. "We believed punctuality was appropriate." Some Varelian councillors shifted uncomfortably. That alone marked humans as different. Punctuality here was often a tool, not a value. The formal greetings continued, but Sciathera felt something deeper unfolding beneath the surface. The human was behaving as though her exposure did not reduce her authority. He did not avoid her gaze, nor did he treat her with exaggerated care. He spoke to her as if she were complete, as if the missing symbols did not define her. When the opening exchange concluded, protocol required the princess to signal a brief pause before moving to the discussion phase. Normally, this was when her regalia would project dominant signals, gently reminding all present of her position. Nothing happened. The air remained still. A murmur spread again through the court. Sciathera felt heat rise in her chest. Not embarrassment, but awareness. Without the regalia's filters, she felt the emotions of the room more clearly than ever before. Fear, confusion, expectation, and from the human delegation, patience. They waited, not awkwardly, not nervously, simply waiting. Sciathera made a decision that would echo far beyond the chamber. "Representative Reeves," she said, "will you walk with me?" The words broke several layers of tradition at once. A private walk during first contact was unheard of. Yet the human did not hesitate. "Of course," he said. As they moved down the long corridor overlooking the orbital city, Sciathera noticed something else. The human did not adjust his pace to dominate or lag behind. He matched her stride naturally, as if walking beside someone were the most normal thing in the universe. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. "I am aware," Sciathera said finally, "that you have observed a failure of protocol." Daniel considered his response carefully. "I observed a situation," he said. "I don't know enough about your culture to call it a failure." That answer surprised her. Most species rush to assign meaning, often incorrectly. "You saw me without my regalia?" she said. "In my society," she continued, "that is equivalent to being seen without authority." Daniel stopped walking. So did she. He turned to face her fully, expression serious, but calm. "Then I'm glad you told me," he said, "because that's not how it looked to us." Sciathera studied him closely. Without the emotional dampening field, she could read subtleties she usually ignored. He was not lying. His sincerity was unfiltered. "How did it look to you?" she asked. "It looked," Daniel said slowly, "like someone important chose to show up anyway." The words settled between them. No praise, no pity, just acknowledgement. Sciathera felt something unfamiliar tighten behind her eyes. She turned away slightly, composing herself. "You are unusual," she said. He smiled faintly. "We hear that a lot." They resumed walking. From above, unseen observers recorded every movement. Across the galaxy, analysts would later replay this moment again and again, searching for the instant when something changed. None of them would notice it. Only Sciathera felt it. For the first time in her life, she stood before another species not as a projection of symbols but as herself, and the humans had not turned away. When the meeting concluded later that cycle, rumors spread faster than data streams. Some claimed the humans had exploited a royal weakness. Others whispered that the princess had committed a grave error. But Sciathera returned to her private chamber with a steady heart. She stood alone, looking at the silent regalia suspended in its cradle. For once she did not rush to activate it. Somewhere in the depths of her thoughts, a quiet realization formed. If humans could face the universe without shields, without emotional armor, and still stand, then perhaps exposure was not the same as weakness. And perhaps the galaxy was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The silence that followed the human envoy's departure did not feel peaceful. Princess Cythera stood at the center of the council chamber, surrounded by the familiar glow of knowledge streams and advisory projections. Her regalia was active again, its soft hum wrapping around her thoughts like a practiced calm. Yet something about it felt heavier than before, as if it were now an extra layer instead of a part of her. The counselors spoke all at once.
"This was reckless," one said.
"You allowed an outsider to witness royal vulnerability," another added. "The humans cannot be trusted with such knowledge," a third insisted. Cythera listened without interrupting. Normally, her regalia would filter the emotional edge from their voices, reducing the discussion to data and logic. Now, she was more aware of what lay beneath their words. Fear of change, fear of judgment, fear of losing control. "The human envoy showed no sign of disrespect," Cythera said calmly.
"That is not the point," Counselor Threx replied.
"Respect is meaningless without understanding. They do not know what they saw." "They knew enough," she answered. The chamber dimmed slightly as information streams shifted. Records of the meeting replayed in fragments. The human's posture, his tone, the way he continued protocol without hesitation. Analysts had already marked it as anomaly behavior. Counselor Threx leaned forward. "My princess, the issue is not what the human did. It is what you allowed." Cythera turned her gaze to him. "I allowed dialogue. You allowed precedent." That word lingered. Across the chamber, another counselor spoke more carefully. "The humans are different. Their psychology profile suggests high tolerance for uncertainty. They may not interpret exposure as weakness." "Exactly," Cythera said. Several counselors exchanged uneasy looks. "If that is true," Threx said slowly, "then they are dangerous." Cythera did not respond immediately. She dismissed the projections with a gesture, leaving only the physical presence of the council. The sudden lack of visual data unsettled them. "Dangerous how?" she asked.
"They function without safeguards," Threx said. "No emotional dampeners.
No cognitive stabilizers. They evolved through conflict and chaos. Such species tend to impose their instability on others." Cythera remembered Daniel Reeves' quiet patience, the way he waited without discomfort, the way he spoke without hiding behind ceremony. "They function," she said, "because of it, not despite it." The council session ended without resolution. Officially, the matter would be reviewed. Unofficially, division had already formed. Later, in a secured observation suite overlooking the docking ring, Cythera watched the human ship remain motionless. It had not departed yet. That alone was curious. Most visiting vessels left immediately after first contact unless ordered to stay. An aide approached quietly. "My princess, the human envoy has requested clarification regarding tomorrow's agenda." "Clarification?" Cythera repeated. "Yes. He stated that human diplomatic custom prefers transparency." Cythera allowed herself a small, private smile. "Invite him," she said. "Alone." The aide hesitated. "Without council presence? Yes." When Daniel Reeves entered the suite, he carried no datapad, no visible recording device. He paused just inside the doorway, giving Cythera time to acknowledge him. "You asked for transparency," she said. "Yes," he replied. "I didn't want to assume." "Good," she said. "Assumption causes more damage than ignorance." He nodded, accepting the statement without defense. For a moment, neither spoke. The stars beyond the viewport drifted slowly, uncaring. "You are unsettled," Daniel said carefully. Sciathera raised an eyebrow. That is an observation. I don't mean it as criticism, he added quickly. Humans tend to notice changes in atmosphere, emotional ones. Because you live inside them, she said.
Yes, he admitted.
She studied him. You did not react when you saw me without my regalia. No, he said. Why? He took a breath, choosing his words. Because where I come from, authority isn't something you wear. It's something you prove over time. Sometimes the strongest leaders are the ones people see struggle. Sciathera considered this, and when they fail, they still lead, he said. Or someone else steps up. Either way, pretending nothing ever goes wrong doesn't help. That answer unsettled her more than open defiance would have. You understand, she said slowly, that my people built our systems to prevent instability. Yes.
And you believe instability has value? I believe, Daniel said, that learning to function inside it does. Sciathera turned toward the viewport. My council believes your species is dangerous. He did not seem surprised. Most do. Do you consider yourselves dangerous? Daniel thought for a long moment. Potentially, he said, but so is fire. It depends on how it's used. She glanced at him. You speak as if your species is still choosing. We are, he said quietly. That answer stayed with her after he left. The following cycle, the princess made another unexpected decision. She ordered a limited public appearance without full regalia activation. The court reacted with restrained shock. Advisors protested. Security protocols flagged elevated risk. Yet Sciathera insisted. The humans were invited to observe. This time, Daniel was not surprised. He noticed the reduced regalia immediately. But again, he did not comment. Instead, he adjusted his behavior subtly, speaking more plainly, slowing his pace, reducing formal distance. The court noticed that too. Whispers spread faster than logic. She is mirroring human behavior, someone muttered. She is destabilizing tradition, said another. Yet the session proceeded more efficiently than most before it. Questions were answered directly. Decisions were made faster. Disputes ended without circular ritual debate. Even dissent felt clearer. Later, in private, a young council aide approached Sciathera. My princess, the aide said nervously. May I ask something? Yes. Did you feel less burdened today? Sciathera paused. Yes, the aide swallowed. So did we. That night, Daniel received an encrypted message. It contained a single line. How do humans teach themselves to stand without armor? He smiled, then typed his reply. Usually by falling first. Across the orbital city, Sciathera read the message and felt something like quiet understanding. The galaxy had always believed humans survived through strength, aggression, or numbers. They were wrong. Humans survived by accepting exposure as part of existence, and slowly, carefully, the Princess of Aurelia began to wonder what her people might become if they learned the same. The real consequences of that question had not arrived yet, but they were coming. The changes did not arrive loudly. They came in small moments that were easy to ignore if someone wanted to. A meeting that ended earlier than expected. A debate that did not circle back on itself. A counselor who spoke plainly instead of hiding behind ritual language. Princess Sciathera noticed all of it. She sat in her private chamber, the regalia inactive beside her, watching a live feed of the lower administrative forums. Normally, she would not bother with such details. Systems ran themselves. Protocol kept order. Emotion was filtered, controlled, removed.
Now she watched because she wanted to understand. A junior official hesitated before speaking, then continued anyway, voice unsteady but honest. No reprimand followed. Instead, the discussion adjusted around the truth that had been spoken. Sciathera leaned back slowly. This was new. Across the orbital station, Daniel Reeves was having a conversation of his own. The human delegation had been invited to observe several internal processes. That invitation alone was unusual. Normally, off-worlders were kept at a careful distance from the inner workings of Varelian governance. Daniel understood what it meant. They were being tested. One of the Varelian analysts spoke through the translation field. "You appear comfortable," she said. Daniel smiled slightly. "We usually are when we're allowed to listen." "You are not concerned about what you might hear?" "Concerned," he said. "Yes." "Afraid? No." She studied him. "Your species displays a strange relationship with uncertainty. We don't enjoy it," Daniel replied. "We just don't wait for it to disappear." That answer was recorded, tagged, and forwarded to the upper council. Not everyone was pleased. Councillor Threx stood before the full council chamber, his regalia flaring brighter than usual. "We are losing structural integrity," he said. "Not physically, but culturally." Sciathera listened, her expression neutral. "Humans normalize exposure," Threx continued. "They frame it as strength. Already, our officials are imitating them, removing safeguards, speaking without filters." "And the result?" Sciathera asked. Threx hesitated. "Efficiency has increased. Public satisfaction metrics," she pressed, "improved." "Then what is the danger?" she asked. "The danger," Threx said sharply, "is that we are becoming dependent on a foreign mindset." Sciathera nodded slowly. "Or discovering one we suppressed." That silenced the chamber. Later, Sciathera invited Daniel to walk again. This time, it was not private. They walked through a public sector of the station visible to citizens, officials, and visitors alike. Murmurs followed them. Not fear, not outrage. Curiosity. Daniel noticed the lack of regalia immediately. Sciathera wore only minimal symbolic markers now, enough to satisfy tradition without dominating the space. "You are being watched," Daniel said quietly.
"Yes," she replied. "So are you. That doesn't bother you?" "It does," she said honestly.
"But less than it used to." They passed a group of Varelian citizens who paused, unsure whether to bow. Sciathera inclined her head gently instead of waiting for formality. The citizens relaxed, returning the gesture. Daniel noticed. "You just changed a rule," he said. "No," Sciathera replied. "I," revealed one that already existed. They reached a quiet observation platform. "I received your message," Daniel said, "about standing without armor." "And?" she asked. "And I realized we never teach it directly," he said. "We just fail in public?" "Over and over. Eventually, we stop pretending that protection is the same as strength." Sciathera considered this. "Your species must experience much internal conflict." "Yes," Daniel said. "And a lot of it is unnecessary, but it also forces us to adapt fast." She turned to him. "My people adapted by preventing conflict before it occurred. And it worked," he said. "For a time," she replied. Silence settled between them. Then Sciathera did something no Virelian ruler had done in recorded history. She deactivated her regalia completely, in a public space. Daniel felt the shift immediately. Even without knowing all the cultural meaning, he understood the weight of the moment. Around them, citizens froze. Data streams spiked. Security systems tensed but did not engage.
Sciathera stood very still. I feel exposed, she said quietly. Daniel did not step closer. He did not step away. That makes sense, he said. But I also feel. She searched for the word. Present. He nodded. That part doesn't go away. A Varelian official hurried toward them, panic clear in her movements. My princess, please, this is not safe. Scythera turned to her.
What danger do you see? The official hesitated. You are
unshielded. Yes, Scythera said. And the official struggled, then finally admitted, I do not know. That answer echoed louder than any alarm. The moment spread across the station faster than any official announcement could stop it. Clips circulated. Analysis exploded. Some called it recklessness. Others called it courage. Humans watched quietly. Daniel sent a short report back to Earth. They are learning faster than expected. The response came hours later. So did you? Once. The following council session was the most tense yet. Councillor Threx spoke last. My princess, he said, voice controlled but strained. You are dismantling safeguards that took millennia to perfect. No, Scythera said calmly. I am choosing when to use them. That choice weakens our image, she met his gaze. Does it? He faltered. Or does it reveal that our strength never came from the safeguards alone? The chamber was silent. At the edge of the room, a junior counselor spoke softly. I felt, heard today. Others nodded. Threx closed his eyes briefly. The vote that followed was narrow, but clear. Human advisors would be embedded within select governance processes, not as rulers, not as overseers, but as observers and consultants. The galaxy reacted instantly. Some species expressed alarm, others curiosity, a few quietly requested access to human behavioral studies. Scythera watched it all with calm focus. She met Daniel one last time before the announcement went public. You realize, he said, this will change how others see you. Yes, she replied. And how they see humans. She allowed herself a small smile. You already changed that when you did not look away. Daniel bowed his head slightly. Then I suppose this is where things get complicated.
Yes, she said, but...
And honest. As the announcement spread across known space, one truth became impossible to ignore. Humans had not demanded power. They had not threatened, conquered, or manipulated. They had simply existed without armor, and that, somehow, was more unsettling than force. The galaxy was watching now, and it was no longer sure what strength was supposed to look like.